cheering for you. It was T.
I thought I'm going to start my own timer too, in case you want to.
I'm good with it. Okay.
Today I'm going to talk to you about Joseph Stalin, the man, the myth, and the legend. So why we even talk about Joseph Stalin? What did he do? Why is he significant? So most people don't really know much about Stalin. We just know, oh, Stalin, yeah, he's that Russian dude that was terrible. Yeah, he's the Russian dude that was terrible. Why was he terrible? The Great Purges. So that was in between 1936 and 1938. And that's when no one really knows how many people he actually killed. The estimates range on the people, super conservative, have said like, thousands, up to roughly, like people have said tens of millions. So it's hard to know, but they do have some more documentation now. It looks like he imprisoned around 20 million, at least between 1936 and I think it was 1930 and 1956. So that's a lot of people, and there's no way to know how many of those actually survived. How did we get to there, though? We'll start with the man. He's a Georgian by ethnicity, and that's where he grew up. He had a very awful, harsh childhood. His dad was a serious alcoholic and very abusive, and beat him as a child. And this is his childhood friend, Ioseb Iramashvili. This is what he had to say about it. He said, "Undeserved, terrible beatings made the boy as hard and heartless as his father himself. Since all men who had authority over others, either through power or age, reminded him of his father, there soon arose a feeling of revenge against all men who stood above him. From his youth, the realization of his thoughts of revenge became the goal toward which everything was aimed." So this is a kid starting off with a lot of hatred inside. His mom was a very harsh woman, but she loved him, and she instilled, she was an iron woman. She instilled discipline, and she wanted him to be a priest. And he actually did attend seminary as a kid. He was on that path. That did not work out. And as a child, he read a lot of Georgian literature, and there was this character Koba, who's basically this avenger of the people, and that's really who he saw himself as, and like to the point that people called him Koba, like that was one of his nicknames. People knew him as Koba. That's it's Koba. And then so that's where he is. He's got this feeling that I'm this avenger, I'm the hero of the people, and the Bolshevik Revolution, Bolshevik Revolution breaks out. Lenin, running the whole thing, and he gets involved in that. That's kind of how he starts to really express. He feels like he's involved. He's doing this thing, and that's when he kind of ditches his Georgian identity, and he's like, I'm Mother Russia, whatever. And he really goes for the whole Russian ethnicity. Lenin was really the father of that movement, and unfortunately, shortly after, within 2 months of Lenin naming Stalin the general secretary, he has his first stroke and is left pretty incapacitated. And it's pretty much from this point on that Stalin really starts to become who we know as Stalin. He got the name Stalin, by the way, from his friends. It means steel-like. So that's not even his real name. The myth, how does that come to be? First of all, his daughter, when asked about him, refers to him as a moral and a spiritual monster. Our theme of monsters is coming back, sorry. And he's got this serious dissociation of his self, and this is, I think, he even identified his own myth. He says to his son, "You're not Stalin, and I'm not Stalin. Stalin is Soviet power. Stalin is what he is in the newspapers and the portraits. No, not you, not even me." So he really disassociates himself from this being that he's become. Even Lenin actually expressed his concerns about Stalin very early on, saying, "Comrade Stalin, having become general secretary, has concentrated enormous power in his hands, and I'm not sure that he always knows how to use that power with sufficient caution." It says it's pretty accurate. Another thing is that Lenin has been quoted saying that he thought Stalin was overly rude and he was just way too aggressive. And at one point, Lenin even writes, but this is shortly before he dies, Stalin needs to be removed as general secretary, like it's not going a good place. So this is roughly 1922 when Lenin has his first stroke. And at that point, Stalin begins his subversive moves, and you don't really see it at the surface level, but he starts kind of gathering power, and they establish this triumvirate. It's him and two other Russian guys that are the head thing, and then there's Trotsky, who is the other guy who's basically was Lenin's right-hand man. And this is the way I put it. All the leaders were still equal, but Stalin was more equal than the others. So that's at that point. Now the myth into the legend. So the triumvirate, like I said, Stalin's a little more equal, so he starts to really take power at this point. And 1930, that's when it's official. Like he's officially in charge by that point. He has made his moves. He's eliminated all of his. The rest of the triumvirate, he's basically deported them. They're gone. And I believe this is Trotsky, what he had to say about it. It's the fundamental character of our present leadership is its belief in the omnipotence of methods of violence, even in dealing with its own party. His mom died in the year 1936, and it's at that point that he just is overwhelmed with anxiety, and this is when he truly becomes the monster that we know. He orders all of these killings, and essentially, in any political system, there's usually the top, the middle, and the bottom. And he completely wiped out the middle so that he had no adversaries, and that's when he killed millions. The nature of Stalin's rise within and against formally collective leadership, which succeeded Lenin, evidently required, in order to protect the security and prestige of his command, the elimination of every party leader who enjoyed prominence before Stalin became dominant and who was not a dependent member of his machine. So Stalin truly is just a personally wicked person, just with a corrupt moral compass, and you can see that he dissociated himself because I think he even recognized how evil he had become.